I honestly do not believe that the United States of America will get hit with an EMP. And let me tell you why. And then Gray can go ahead and elaborate on that, extend on that.
Hmm.
The reason is, for example, let's say that country X hits the US with an EMP. Well, only because they hit the US with an EMP doesn't mean that that's it. The US is incapable of anything. We have submarines that are always in patrol. We have aircraft carriers that are always in patrol. And if for some reason that did happen to us, that we got an EMP, do you think that those assets, military assets that we have carrying nuclear capabilities on board, that they would stand still? No, whatever country did that to us would more than likely be glowing for the next 80 to 100, if not longer, years, right? So that's why I don't think that any country will ever execute an EMP on us unless it's a country that wants to self-destruct. I'm worried more about a coronal mass ejection.
Hmm.
Now, a coronal mass ejection is foreseeable. Depending on the strength of it would depend on how fast it would get to Earth. And if you are on top of channels like Suspicious Observer, you'll be on top of knowing whether we got a CME headed our way in enough time to do some basic things like what I'm going to tell you. This is what I would do. One of the first things that I would do, of course, is to make sure that if I have an extra solar generator, all right, I would go ahead and already have one stowed away in an EMP proof container, excuse me. All right. That way I could always have it there along with a few solar panels, etc. But if I only have one solar generator or one set of solar generator and a regular generator, etc., whatever you want to have EMP proof. And as soon as I find out that there is a coronal mass ejection coming our way, first thing I would do is I would make sure that I unhook my house from the grid, meaning that I would turn off that power to the main part of my house and physically. Now, I am not a professional. I'm not an engineer. Do this on your own, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you what to do, telling you what I would do. Okay. So don't come out here and sue me if you get electrocuted. All right. Anyways, I digress. What I would do is I would disconnect the power, physically disconnect it from my house. That's the first thing I would do. And then I would go ahead and grab all of the small devices that I own, phone, tablet, etc., that I can fit in the microwave and put it inside the microwave. All right. And then I would go ahead and grab some of those other bigger devices that I have, and I would put them in a Faraday cage. Depending on how long you have, depending on the speed of the CME that's coming towards Earth from the sun, would depend on how fast you would have to be in putting those things away and how many things you would already have to have staged, ready to go in that instance. So there are some things that you can do for a CME. An EMP, if it does happen, no one is going to know about it, ladies and
Hmm.
gentlemen. So just make sure that you have your basic preps already. All right. If you have your basic preps, you can get through almost any crisis much better than the person next to you that didn't have any preps at all.
I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision.
Well, the coronal mass ejections also, I want to say, because those guys we were talking about, they actually, I don't know if it'll show it on the screen. I'll see if my camera will focus
Nice.
on it. But
Yeah.
that is that they have an app and they alert you in regards to different things that are happening with the solar thing. Some people don't like apps, I get it, but I get notifications every time there's a solar flare or something that's going on with the thing, and it lets me know, hey, there's some activities going on you might be unaware of and kind of stuff like that, which I enjoy.
Yeah, there it is. Whoever wants to know, the space weather live.
Our local sheriff kind of took a jab. I don't know if he's up for re-election or whatnot, but he said he's like, hey, I think we should do they passed a bill last year in regards to permitless carry, but the sheriff says no, we should have open carry. So I think he's going to push that in the next upcoming legislation as we move into this
Good.
election year. So
Yeah, I personally prefer to conceal carry myself. Like here in Alaska, we can open carry if we like, but I've seen too many stories where somebody was open carrying and somebody came up from behind them and took their gun out of their holster and stuff. And I really don't care that anybody know that I'm carrying, to tell you the truth. So, but to each their own, you know. But any laws that are passed that are for the Second Amendment, great. Inflation is not transitory, right? Inflation is what happens. You can leave that back up, brother. We can hit it again if you want.
Oh, I'm gonna add to it while you're talking.
Okay, but you know, inflation is what happens when you increase the money supply. That is inflation, but the rate of inflation is what is transitory. But what they don't tell you and what they lead you to believe is that once those prices go up, it doesn't matter what the rate of inflation is. Those prices are more than likely going to stay elevated and then just continue to go up at a slower rate than before. That's what's transitory, is the rate at which inflation is going up, but not the actual price of things themselves going up and then coming back down significantly, or back down to the baseline where it used to be before. So people get hung up on that. They don't understand that, and that's why most people throughout their lives, that's why most of them stay poor, because they are not educated enough, unfortunately. And I'm not blaming we the people. I'm blaming the education system. I'm blaming the liars in Washington. I'm blaming the liars that tell you that you should be putting money here or there, whereas you're going to be losing a lot of that wealth that you're putting away in paper dollars to the inferno of what I call inflation, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not blaming the average person, but inflation throughout your lifetime, your working lifetime, will steal from you about 70% of what you earned. Think about that. Just through inflation. I'm not talking about direct taxation, but just through inflation, throughout your working life, you're going to lose about 70% of what you actually worked for, labored for. Things are not going to get better anytime soon. And that's why we need to be prepared. And the thing is that with as many Americans right now that are in despair, meaning that they can't even afford to get a flat tire, literally cannot afford to get a flat tire, because if they do, it can cost them their jobs, which will cost them their livelihood, which will cost them their homes, and they can end up homeless from one flat tire. The average American can't even afford a $400 or $500 emergency, and they're tapped out. You know, their credit cards are maxed out. They are what's called debt saturated. So we are in a bad way. Whereas if we did have a major crisis, let's say financial crisis, the 60 to 70% of Americans that right now can't even afford a $400 or $500 emergency, they're going to be in so much despair that the government's going to have them exactly where they want them in order to affect policy, in order to make policy that they want to make that normally they wouldn't be able to get away with, like a CBDC, which will be an enslavement tool rather than a tool that is used to help us. Think about this. Can anyone tell me when's the last time that the government actually did something that was good, that actually helped people? Not only in the short term, because those stimulus checks really help people for about 2 minutes, but are they helping them now with inflation that has way over surpassed what they received in stimulus? If you'll remember, we ended up getting, I think on average, about $3,000 per family. Right, Gray? On average, right? About $3,000 per family once you took all those stimulus checks and put them together, right? Now, starting this year, I remember doing a video, starting this year, the average American family now has to spend about $700 to $900 more per month because of inflation. That's $8,000 to $10,000 a year more than 3 times all of the stimulus checks that we received. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not just for 1 year. That's forever. Okay, that's forever. So those nice little stimulus checks that we got, I hope that you really enjoyed them, and I hope that you really put them to good use, because you will be paying for those for the rest of your lives, including your children and your children's children. So make sure that you invite them to the party, because they're going to pay for those as well. Now, the government either produces a crisis or takes advantage of a crisis, where after it sees the effect on we the people, then puts out a solution that only progresses its own agenda, but does nothing for the people that is supposed to be helping. So always ask yourselves that whenever the government says you can have this for free, ask yourselves, is it really free? I can answer that for you right now. No, it's not. There's going to be some good states and some bad states. If you want to live in New York, if you want to live in California, and I always get hate for this. I'm not saying anything bad about New York or California's people, all right? But it's up to you if you want to stay living there. If there are more people that live in New York that want to allow their government in New York to tell them how to live their lives and what to do, then go ahead. Stay there if you want. Obviously, that's how it is in California, because California has been like this for years now. San Francisco, until she decided to visit San Francisco and have some kind of a meeting with Biden over there. San Francisco used to be the poop capital of the country, where they literally have an app on your phone that tells you which streets have the most or the least poop, so you know which street to walk down. But people want to stay living there because it's beautiful, great weather. I'll take 7 months of darkness and winter in Alaska before you find me in San Francisco trying to navigate through human feces on my phone app. Incredible, man.
That's horrible. It's funny you mentioned that. I watch a channel. His name is Mike Glover. I think he runs a company called Fieldcraft Survival out of Utah, and he rode with a law enforcement officer. He talked to him, and he also did something with Jack Osborne or whatnot. And it was very eye-opening to see someone on the ground showing what's going on in some of these areas, and how there's no police, how the police have their hands tied, how they've decriminalized or made it so that you can't get in trouble for this or that. And it was just quite interesting to see how it all plays out. And you have someone like Jack Osborne, who's wealthy, he's a celebrity, but more on the mindset that we have, because he's actually prepping, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's him and his friends were having a conversation. And remember, these guys are like millionaires, folks. And they were like, well, everybody else is doing it. Why should we start paying? Regular people are starting to go out there and think, well, if everybody else can steal for, under $1,000, I mean, I can just walk into the store and take whatever the heck I want to. It's obliterating their economy over there. It's crazy the way that is, man. I don't understand it, how the government, the local government, can run a state like that.
It's going to fail soon enough, but I do believe that that's their goal. Their goal is for the system to fail. Their goal is for the people to ask for more government. That's what their goal is. And if people don't wake up, and people are waking up, but if people don't wake up in a hurry, it's going to end up failing, and it's going to be a lot worse, down the line than what it would be if we try to fix it now. Money is the root of evil. I mean, I have to disagree with that, but I think that we will both agree on what I have to say about that. Minuteman, the love of money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money. You see, because now this is my opinion. I believe that God put gold and silver on this earth so that it can be used as money, because God himself understood that we humans, we need a median in which we can use to exchange value for value. And being that gold and silver are elements, right, they cannot be created, and they can't be destroyed either. So people that love money, right, people that are evil, that actually have a love of money, like the people in Washington, D.C., and these overlords that think that they ought to govern over us, they create their own money out of thin air. And that's the money that I believe is quoted as being said that these money changers, these evil money changers, that they will be throwing their silver and their gold onto the street. Not that it will be silver and gold, actually, that they'll be throwing onto the street, but the money changers will be throwing what they took and molested into their own silver and gold, which is fiat currency. Governments, Federal Reserve, central banks, it's them that have ruined money because they love money so much. So just remember that. Everyone ought to know what money is, what real money is. And it's why I'm such a big proponent of whatever excess wealth you have. And what I mean by excess wealth is, do you have all your bills paid? Are you debt free, or are you on a path to be debt free? Do you have all of your preparations ready? A, B, and C, right? Do you have all of these things? And do you still have a little bit of excess wealth after you get all of those things put away? That excess wealth, in my opinion, belongs in gold and silver. Why? Number one, that's what God left us as real money. And it's money that cannot be tainted by the money changers that decided to create their own gold and silver, aside from what was left to us by our creator.
You know, whenever you say, you know, the first thing people always love to say is you can't eat gold, you can't eat silver. I get slapped in the face with that. And I'm a person that I don't mind any type of construction criticism on something that I discuss or my personal opinion, as long as you do it in a educational and polite manner. But so, you know, some people just come at you really hard with that. And I'm like, I try to use real world things that are happening in the globe. And I always, you know, default to Venezuela. And because of that documentary that I watched, that they're literally paying for haircuts, food, and all kinds of stuff with gold, with literal gold. They're paying because their money is worth nothing. And I get it. Like, if there's a true full blown, you know, end of the world as you know it,
Right.
balloon goes up. I get it. It's still good to have in the aspect of, like, eventually things will come back. You know what I mean? It's just the way the cycle works. Things come back. And basically you're retaining a certain aspect of wealth, even in the beginning of certain crazy situations, before people start realizing that food is more important than, let's say, gold or silver at that point. But they'll still be trading it. You know, oh, I'm not going to take $1 because $1 is worthless right now because our country's in the, you know, gutter. So you can use it in kind of like right in that beginning, and then when the rebuilding starts, per se. At least that's how I look at it. You know what I mean? So I look at it as wealth retention.
Exactly what it is. I look at it as money. It's money. That's what it is. The value of it is in itself. The value doesn't go up or down. People think that the value of silver and gold go up and down. No, it's not. It's not the value of the dollar that goes up and down. That's why you have different nominal values for silver and gold, is because the dollar is going up and down. And I'm not trying to pick on anyone today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not in the mood of trying to disagree with people. But Oops says, how you doing, Oops, by the way? Money is enslavement. No fences or chains necessary. I have to disagree with that. Like I said, we need to understand what money is. Once we know what money is, we understand that money is freedom. Why? Because real money, gold and silver, as is stated in the Constitution of the United States, is what we are supposed to be using in this country. All right? Our government has gone away from the Constitution. And why has our government gone away from using real money? Real money is freedom, because the value is within it. The reason that our government doesn't use real money, they use fiat currency. See? Fiat currency is enslavement. No fences, chains necessary. If you were to put fiat currency instead of money in there, Oops, I'd agree 100%. Why is that? Because with fiat currency, the government has no limits on what it can do. Why? Because if you're going to exchange value for value, you need a type of money. And the government has made fiat currency into our money instead of using real money. Now, why don't they use gold or silver? Because with gold and silver, they are restricted as to how much they can spend. That's the only reason that the government hates gold and silver, is because they are restricted as to how much they can spend. They cannot deficit spend with gold and silver. But with fiat currency that they can print out of thin air, ladies and gentlemen, they can strip your dollars of their value by just printing dollars out of thin air that nobody worked into existence, therefore stealing from you the time that it took you to earn those dollars. That is enslavement. Fiat currency gives the government power over the people, whereas real money gives the people the power over the government. That is why governments will never give up their fiat currency willingly. It will be a fight to the end. And that's why I say get prepared.